So I just watched episode 6, and well, it was entertaining at least. I don't know, man. Making these videos is kind of making me not care about the show anymore. Not like I cared a whole lot in the first place, but now I'm truly just passively watching, which actually helped me enjoy this episode more. Like I said, you gotta just turn your brain off when watching this season. But if I'm being honest, this episode was not that bad. I watched it a little late and found myself enjoying it way more than the last episode, despite the negative connotations surrounding it. To bring out the rad or bad meter, this episode puts it at around here. Not too bad. We're almost halfway to being rad, but let's dive straight into why this episode is good, and also why it's not. Obviously, most of this episode is a filler side quest, but as we all know, that's just how The Mandalorian is. So it doesn't really bother me all that much, because I just expect this shit now. But it helps that this side quest is actually pretty interesting. It's a good little mystery and it actually gets pretty deep at times. But I'll get into that in a sec, because I want to talk about this first scene. This is an awesome way to reintroduce us to Bo's old crew. Within a span of 5 minutes, we're shown the cunning power of the rogue Mandalorians and an engaging relationship of love versus responsibility. And you know what the best part is? Not a single blaster is fired. Knowing this show, I expected this to be another average fight sequence where people die off screen and the Mandalorians are shown to be these savage warriors. But to my surprise, this isn't the case here, and it makes the scene that much more interesting, because we get more out of their dialogue than if they were to have a stupid fight. But yeah, this opener definitely reeled me in for the rest of the episode, despite these tentacle things. Moving on to Bo and Din, I realized the moment I heard this, I knew it was going to be mostly filler. Also, I didn't know you could remotely control a ship like this. Can someone tell me if this is normal in Star Wars? I know we got tractor beams, but they straight up hijacked the gauntlet like it was nothing. Can you imagine if the Death Star could do that? Anyway, like I said, I don't really care about this show anymore, so this episode being filler didn't matter all that much. Which is probably why I was not fazed by Jack Black and Lizzo. Dude, I did not expect the fanbase to be so riled up by these two. Honestly, when I saw Jack Black, my first reaction was, "Oh my dog, what's up?" And I think because at this point, I'll take any stimulation I can get from this show. I have been so parched for entertainment that I welcome Jack Black with open arms. As for Lizzo, I don't really know too much about her, so I feel like any opinion I have is negligible. Although this interaction,
he doesn't take kindly to strangers,
was not cool. I would not let this behavior slide if I was Mando. Like, that's my son, not your toy. Bitch. Sorry, that was rude. I've had a similar experience with my dog, so this shit was personal. Anyway, Jack and Lizzo are not as bad as people say. Do I think they ruined Star Wars? No. Are they entertaining to watch? Barely. Am I gonna send hateful messages to either of them? No, because I'm not a scumbag. This should be general knowledge to everyone, but it is never okay to send threatening, hateful comments to actors, no matter how much you dislike their characters. Alright, let's move on with this side quest, which actually kept my attention the whole way through. I always love a good mystery, so watching Mando and Bo unravel the puzzling droid outbreaks was pretty engaging. Perhaps the best part of this episode is Din and Bo's interaction. Similar to episode 2, I love when Din and Bo are compared as Mandalorians. Here we get to see their strengths and weaknesses in their people skills as they interrogate the planet's civilians. The Ugnaught scene is probably my favorite as we get to see Bo's impatience contrasted by Din's cultural intelligence.
Thank you. We are in your debt. I have spoken.
Even though Bo is destined to be a leader, her prestigious ignorance really shows with the way she talks to the Ugnaughts. While Din, someone who has experienced many cultures of the galaxy, talks to them with respect. But then the roles are switched when they interrogate the droid bartender. We know Din has always been a good people person, but to him, droids aren't people, and his temper almost cost them a vital clue to the mission. But I mean, I'd also hold a grudge against droids if I got sucker punched this hard. But it's here where Bo's communication skills shine over Mando's. Scenes like this are cool because we get a hint into what kind of leader Bo or Din could be if either of them would rule Mandalore. Although it's unlikely they will fight for the throne, especially after the ending of this episode. The most fascinating part of this episode for me is this droid's monologue. I feel like Star Wars doesn't typically talk about droids' rights or the debate on whether or not they should be treated as equals, and when they do, it comes off as a little gimmicky. Here we get some insight about the droids' lives outside of their programmed jobs. I mean, I didn't even know droids went to a bar to socialize, and hearing about their fear of replacement elicits empathy that we wouldn't normally have for droids. After watching this episode, I have a whole new respect for them. I mean, I always loved them as characters, but now it truly feels like they have souls in this universe. I wasn't too enthralled by the culprit of the droid scandal. I mean, it could only be so many people, and honestly, I don't even remember why the commissioner created rogue droids in the first place. All I took away from his arrest was that he mentioned Count Dooku and then turned somewhat good at the end, which honestly felt pretty Disney-esque to have the bad guy say "I'm sorry" at the end. I love Christopher Lloyd, but this is straight out of a children's cartoon. So now we finally get to the 10 minutes of actual plot in this episode, and I gotta say, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. The fight between Bo-Katan and Axe Wolves, I'm just finding this out now, is pretty well done. I like how this fight incorporates their tools like the jetpacks, the flamethrower, and the shield. It actually feels like two Mandalorians fighting, although things get kind of whack when Din gives the Darksaber to Bo through some lame-ass loophole.
She defeated the enemy that defeated me.
Okay.
I just feel like this was a missed opportunity to lean into the theme of breaking traditions. Since Bo removed her helmet, I thought it was clear that breaking traditions is what's necessary to take back Mandalore. Din and Bo could have used this moment to convince these guys that some traditions aren't worth holding on to, and there are more important things than the Darksaber. It could have been an enlightening moment for all these Mandalorians, but instead, these guys are won over because some escape clause in the Mandalorian culture. To be honest, I was going to say something about the Darksaber in my last video, but decided to hold off because I had a feeling it would be important later. This is definitely not what I had in mind. Similar to everything else in this season, this just felt like wasted potential. Overall, this episode was just alright. Yeah, the side quest was interesting, but the whole thing still feels bland and lifeless. I still don't connect with any of these characters, and I can't say I'm excited for the next episode anymore. If I'm being honest, the quality of this show makes it hard for me to be excited about any upcoming Star Wars stuff. Like, the Ahsoka trailer looks pretty sick, but I have to tell myself to chill out and not get too excited because it could easily end up like this season. In an age with hundreds of TV shows to watch, I often ask myself why I put up with this mediocre crap. Like, I just watched Beef on Netflix, and let me tell you, it was like being fed a gourmet dinner after eating only McDonald's for months. I nearly cried because I had forgotten what good TV was supposed to feel like. The last time I felt that with Star Wars was during Andor, but maybe Disney just got lucky with that. Whatever the case, good or bad, I'll always be a Star Wars fan, and I do enjoy making these videos. Let me know what you think of this episode, and feel free to check out my previous Mandalorian videos if you haven't seen them already. I also want to give a huge thank you for 5,000 subscribers. I never imagined my videos would attract 500 people, let alone 5,000, so I am truly honored by all you guys. Thank you very much for watching my videos, and I'll catch you next time.